brokenhearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars. You know who we are. Healer of the brokenhearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars. You know who we are. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Healer of the brokenhearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars. You know who we are. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
The Musar movement speaks of 4 tikkuns, 4 types or forms of healing. Tikkun atzmi, the repair of the self. Tikkun bait, the repair of the home. Tikkun kahal, repairing our community. And tikkun olam, the repair of the world. The practice of Judaism empowers us to heal. We are invited to believe that we can repair our interior selves, heal our sacred relationships, create communities that are safe and respectful for all, and ultimately build a better world. We recognize all 4 of these healings are deeply interconnected. Our service this morning moves us to that healed world, that society rebuilt. How? Through our belief in our power to heal and our belief in the connection between our prayers and our actions. Judaism is structured in such a way that intentionality is turned into action. Through our blessings and prayers, our hearing of the ancient prophetic call to justice, our embrace of the journey we are on, and our claiming of hope, we dedicate this day of sacred attention to the call for healing. Because our intention today shifts, our interior lives change. And we believe that tomorrow we can emerge renewed. That renewal empowers us to tomorrow's acts of tikkun, tomorrow's repair. We continue singing songs of strength and power with our congregational choir.
Ozi Bezimratya Vaigili Yeshua Ozi Bezimratya
As we turn to page 158, we return, as we do each morning, to the idea that there is a pure soul, a goodness in each of us. The words of Elohai guide us to find that belief.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorahi. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorahi. Ata verata, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi, ve'ata mishamra, mishamra b'kirbi. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorahi.
We continue on page 164. Praise be.
Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam. Baruch she'amar Baruch hu. Baruch oseh bereshit. Baruch omer who spoke, and the world came to be. Praise be the source of creation. Praise be the one who spoke, and the world came to be. Praise be God, Baruch Hu. Baruch she'amar Baruch she'amar Baruch hu. Baruch oseh bereshit. Baruch omer ve'oseh. Praise be the one who spoke, and the world came to be. Praise be the source of creation. Praise be the one who spoke, and the world came to be. Praise be God, Baruch Hu. Praise be God, Baruch Hu. Praise be God, Baruch Hu.
We continue on page 173.
HaMelech HaYoshev Al Kisei Rama V'Nisa Shochen Ad Marom V'Kadosh Shemo V'Chatov Ranenu Tzadikim Badonai Laisharim Nava Tehillah Befi Yesharim Titromam Uvdivrei Tzadikim Titbarach Uvilshon Chasidim Titkadash Uvekerev Kedoshim Tithalal Uvamakalot Rivavotam Chabet Yisrael Marini Parashim Chama Ishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu HaMelech HaGadol VaKadosh V'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Me'ata ve'ad olam Baruch Ata Adonai El Melech Gadol Batishbachot El HaHodaot Adon HaNiflaot Habocher B'Shirei Zimara Melech Elchei HaOlamim.
We continue on page 178, entering our journey into our considerations of the oneness of all life.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Continuing on page 182.
Ha'er einenu b'toratecha b'toratecha v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha b'mitzvotecha v'yachel levaveinu le'ahava u'yirah et shemecha ve'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed ve'lo nevosh le'olam le'olam va'ed v'ha'er einenu b'toratecha b'toratecha v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha b'mitzvotecha v'yachel levaveinu le'ahava u'yirah et shemecha ve'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed ve'lo nevosh le'olam le'olam va'ed שמך ולא נבוש לעולם ועד ולא נבוש לעולם לעולם ועד.
Hineni, behold, I stand ready to listen and learn, to embrace in thought and deed, to proclaim with a whole heart the sacred unity of all being. We turn our hearts to the Shema on page 186.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
We continue on page 188 with the acts of love that are to fill our life in response to the unity of all.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We pray that these acts of love bring us towards redemption, a day when all are free. We continue with the words of Micha Mocha, page 196. In the depths of night by the edge of the river, Jacob was left alone. In heartfelt longing in the temple of God, Hannah uttered her prayer alone. In the barren wilderness, in doubt and despair, Elijah found God alone. On the holiest of days, in the Holy of Holies, the high priest entered alone. We are bound to one another in myriad ways, but each soul needs time to itself. In solitude, we meet the solitary one. Silence makes space for the still, small voice. For the psalmist says, "Deep calls unto deep." From the depths of our soul, we seek what is most profound. In this morning's service full of song and word, we are going to sing the first 6 words of the Amidah together. Pray them together for the ability to pray, just the ability to pray. We will join our voices in unison. And then we will continue with a silent Amidah, leaving room, we pray, for each of us to do the solitary work we are called on to do, while held in the loving embrace of community. Page 198. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for the Amidah.
Adonai Svatai Tivta, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Adonai Svatai Tivta, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagir Tehilatecha.
broken-hearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars. You know who we are. Healer of the broken-hearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars. You know who we are. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Healer of the broken-hearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars. You know who we are. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah,
Page 208. Our sovereign, God of pardon and forgiveness, let these words of sanctity ascend to you. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for you. For your throne is a throne of love. Your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal. You record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten. And when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other. For this morning's Uve Shofar, the Hebrew of which can be found on page 210 in your prayer book, Beth and I will be praying together a modern translation interwoven with the ancient text written by Rabbi Michael Strassfeld.
Uveshofar gadol yitaka.
And the great shofar of redemption is sounded, but it is overwhelmed by the sirens of ambulances wailing day and night.
V'kol demamadaka yishama.
And a still small voice cries out, weeping, "Listen, listen."
Umalachim yechafezun.
And angels of mercy are rushing about in their gowns, gloved and masked, as they try to save one life, and another, and another, and another.
Vechil or ada yochezun, veyomru, veyomru.
And fear and trembling has seized each and every one of us. And we say,
Hine yom hadin.
behold, we all are confronted by our limitations.
Livkod al tzvamarom badin.
For we count the legions of the afflicted,
Ki lo yizku ve'enecha badin.
while our eyes aren't able to see those hospitalized through our tears and their isolation.
V'chol ba'ei olam yavrun lefanecha, yavrun lefanecha, ki v'nei maron, ki v'nei maron, kevakarat. Roed ro, ma'avir tsono tachat shivto. Ken ta'avir v'tispor v'timne, ken ta'avir v'tispor v'timne, v'tivkod nefesh kol chai, v'tachtoch kitzba lecho bria, v'tichtov et gezar dinam.
For all who are born pass through this world. As we pass, we write our story, and we hope to make our lives count. And it is decided the length of each life and its ending. And all this is written by our deeds.
Berosh Hashana yikatevun, uviyom som kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashana yikatevun, uviyom som kippur yechatemun.
On Rosh Hashanah, we write our hopes. On Yom Kippur, we seal them on our hearts.
Kama ya'avorun,
Who shall pass on?
v'chama yibareun.
Who shall be as new?
Mi yichyem,
Who shall be alive even in death?
umi yamut.
Who shall be overcome by the shadow of death, even in life?
Mi v'kitzo,
Who is at a dead end?
umi lo v'kitzo.
Who seeks a way to move forward?
Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, uviyom som kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, uviyom som kippur yechatemun. Mi va'esh,
Who by fiery anger?
umi v'mayim,
Who by cool indifference?
mi v'cherev,
Who by disparaging words?
umi v'chayam,
Who by emotions out of control?
mi v'ra'av,
who jealously hungers for what others have,
umivatsamam,
who has an insatiable thirst for others' approval,
mivarash,
who has no way to stand up, shaken by the earthquake of injustice,
umivamagefa,
who will be sickened by the plague of prejudice,
umivachanika,
who will die strangled, crying, I can't breathe,
umivaskila,
whose path ahead is blocked by stones of inequality.
Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Mi yanuach,
Who can relax in her own home,
umi yanuach,
who has no place to call home,
mi yishaket,
who can feel a sense of peace,
umi yitoraf,
who feels constantly torn in pieces,
mi yishalev,
who finds equanimity,
umi yityaser,
who is always suffering,
mi ya'ani,
who lives in the constant uncertainty of poverty,
umi ya'ashir,
who doesn't understand the responsibility of privilege,
mi yushpal, umi yarum,
who will be humbled by our common humanity and thereby uplifted.
Uteshuva, utefila, utzedaka, ma'avirin et roa hagezera.
Yet returning, connecting, and repairing make easier what life holds in store. Make easier facing the world. Make easier facing ourselves. We continue on page 252, Avinu Malkeinu, page 252. I invite you to rise in body or spirit before our open ark.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Va'al Ol Aleinu V'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, kale dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, kale kol tsar umastin me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, kodvenu b'sefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew us for a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, maleyadenu mi birchotecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, harem keren mishichecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, na'al tishivenu rekim milfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu, kabel barachamim uvratzon et tefilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, asa imanu lema'an shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, asa lema'an cha'im lo lema'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, petach sha'arei shamayim litfilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, shema kolenu, chus v'rachem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Aleinu, Ki ein banu masim, Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, chanenu ve'anenu, ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, chanenu ve'anenu, ki ein banu masim.
In front of the commanding presence of our Torahs, we turn to a reading on page 89 in our prayer books.
We dishonor you when we dishonor our society. For our failures of justice, Adonai, we seek forgiveness. For being indifferent to deprivation and hunger, while accepting a culture of self-indulgence and greed. For abuse of power in boardrooms, courtrooms, and classrooms, and for accepting the neglect of children and elders, the ill and the weak. For permitting social inequalities to prevail, and for lacking the vision to transcend our selfishness, for glorifying violence and hastily turning to war, and for allowing history to repeat itself, for behaviors that risk the future of our planet, and for wreaking havoc on our only true inheritance, God's creation.
Good morning. Well, it's not actually morning because I'm pre-recording my thoughts with you. However grateful for this window which technology provides, I also ache to experience our community gathering together, squeezing into Winchester Town Hall during these sacred High Holy Days. Envision it with me. We're all seated in chairs, crammed so closely together, yet with the enormous spaciousness of the vaulted ceiling, all supported by interlocking columns and beams. And that also describes our own Temple Shir Tikvah sanctuary. And for me, I yearn for sanctuary, which provides that closely connected community, while also providing ample spaciousness for transformation. The columns and beams held in place by gravitational energy to support our connectedness. And collectively, we return to this space each year to remember, reflect, replenish, redress, recommit. For me, this returning, doing teshuvah, began naturally. My Bat Mitzvah Torah portion is the one we read each Yom Kippur morning. God offering to make a covenant with all the people. And behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. Pretty heavy stuff for this 13-year-old self to absorb. I was clear, though, that covenants are commitments requiring continuous cultivation and attention. They're not done deals, made once and then forgotten. I also gleaned from that Torah portion that decisions and actions require even small changes can feel frightening, enormous, and arduous. And that committing to lasting, meaningful change most often requires compassion, trust, persistence, humility, and patience. Speaking of Tikkun Midot, positive character traits, I began practicing Musar nearly 15 years ago at the recommendation of our beloved Rabbi Emeritus, Rim Mirowitz. Musar provides texts and practices for engaging with others in the study of our individual soul curriculum, examining features of our inner selves and our actions in the world, a reaching in and a reaching out in the service of becoming our best selves in the Divine's presence. As part of my Musar practice each year during the month of Elul, I focus on teshuvah, returning, to prepare for renewing my covenant with the Divine, with my people, with my work, and with myself. For me, this involves revisiting and assessing my core values, the essential traits I lifted up to help me move toward those values, and the actions I intended to take during the past year. During the past 3 years, my focus traits have been compassion, humility, patience, and trust in God. For me, there is an inextricable connection between my commitment to and practice of inwardly directed soul work and outwardly directed social and racial justice work. Tikkun Midot and Tikkun Olam. They go hand in hand. The Greater Boston Interfaith Organization, GBIO, and Temple Shir Tikvah have been at the center of my faith-based community organizing at the systemic and institutional levels. My Musar practice has also informed my vocational work, doing geriatric care management, elder advocacy, and family counseling. In 2016, however, after working over 25 years in private practice social work, I felt pangs of internal struggle, a misalignment between the nature of my work and the meaning of my values. Because my services were not covered by health insurance, I worked primarily for European American white people of socioeconomic privilege. I also felt disconnected from my once rewarding racial and social justice organizing projects, like I was somehow on the outside, looking in. My heart and soul were calling me to shift my vocation and attention interpersonally. I sensed that I needed to focus on being an instrument of transformation for myself and for others. So in 2017 and 18, I followed my heart and began an advanced certificate program in palliative and end-of-life care at Harvard and plan to help people more directly engage in difficult conversations about advanced directives and tough transitions concerning end-of-life decisions. And last year at this time, I was so moved by Rabbi Rim's attention to advanced directive planning during our Yom Kippur afternoon learning session. I actually thought that it might be a sign from God. My commitment to the traits of patience and trust were paying off. After a few months, I began talking with Beth Levin about organizing a house meeting style collaborative to provide space for just these types of discussions sometime in the future. So I continued practicing compassion, trust, and patience. And I was also doing plenty of racial justice related reading during 2019, and in January 2020, I finished reading The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America by Richard Rothstein. We also were in the process of refinancing our house, and then it hit me. I am actively complicit in this form of systemic racism. Now, I'd been tuned into and acting to dismantle white privilege, unintentional and intentional bias, white supremacy culture, and developing white allies against racism for over 30 years. So why this gut punch? Why now? Well, because I choose to take advantage of my white privilege by owning my home. No, it's not something my ancestors did or other European American white people are doing someplace else. It's me, right here. And I choose to continue living in my house, in my segregated town. And so it was then, in January 2020, when I realized that the work I was being called to do actually concerned race. Even more compelling to me was the calling to focus my racial bias and white identity development inward and interpersonally. I have my own work to do. Cultivating compassionate conversations for bearing witness, discerning, learning, and changing to better inform my actions in the world. But how? And then came COVID-19. And then George Floyd was murdered on a Minneapolis street by a police officer. The virus, the outrage, the calamity. This certainly could not be the time for my calling into a new ministry. The urgency of the moment just felt too great. And yet, after so many months, here we remain. And in so many ways, we are still in that moment. This spring, I reconnected with my spiritual community here at TST and in practicing Musar. I began training with Dr. Amanda Kemp of Racial Justice from the Heart, and Eros, Anti-Racism, Organizing in the Suburbs. I also spoke with Beth Levin about striving for patience, trust, and compassion, and she shared this phrase from Psalm 145 about holding my palms open to spacious receiving, allowing for the flow of change. Poteach et yedecha umashbiach l'chol chai ratzon. You open your hand and all desire is fulfilled. Slowly, I began becoming aware of patience developing from inside me, a sense of calm in the face of uncertainty. I realized that I had to let go of needing to be in control or being controlled by the situation at hand. Musar provided the framework for practicing patience, repeating my focus phrase about holding my palms open to God. You open your hand and all desire is fulfilled, allowing space for transformation. I believe that patience, like our sanctuary at Temple Shir Tikvah, with its strong beams and vaulted, airy ceilings, provides the necessary support and spaciousness for teshuvah, for transformation. And God willing, next year we will return together, sheltered in our beloved sanctuary. Gamar Hatima Tova, may you be sealed in the book of life. Amen.
We turn to page 254 for Seder Kriyat HaTorah. Let the reading of Torah be like a prayer, a meditation to remind us what we strive for, a chant that binds us to the chain of generations.
Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, a moment of purest solidarity with our people's hopes and history, an invitation to affirm or dissent, to challenge or believe, to ask why, or to say amen.
Let the reading of Torah be like a prayer, flowing like waters that renew the spirit, refreshing and sweet to nourish the soul.
Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, every word a blessing, every verse a conversation with God.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
אתם ניצבים היום כולכם לפני אדוני אלוהיכם, ראשיכם שבטיכם, זקניכם ושוטריכם, כל איש ישראל, טפכם נישיכם, וגרך אשר בקרב מחנך, מכותב עצך עד סואב ממך.
Belo etem devadhem anoki koret et habrit hazot ve'et ha'ala hazot ki et asher yishno po imanu omed hayom Lifnei Adonai Eloheinu, ve'et asher enenu, po Imanu Hayom.
Ki hamitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavcha hayom lo nifleiti mimcha velo rechoka hi lo vashamayim hi lemor mi ya'avar lanu Hashamayma v'yikachecha lanu v'yashmi'enu otav v'na'asena v'lo me'ever layam hi lemor mi ya'avar lanu el ever hayam v'yikachecha lanu v'yashmi'enu otav v'na'asena Ki karov elecha hadavar me'od b'ficha uvilvavecha la'asoto.
Ra'e natati lefanecha hayom et ha'haim ve'et hatov ve'et ha'mavet ve'et ha'ra asher anochi tzavcha hayom le'ahava et Adonai Elohecha lalechet b'drachav v'lishmor mitzvotav v'chukatav v'mishpatav v'hayita v'revita u'v'rachacha Adonai Elohecha הארץ אשר אתה בשמה לרשתה ואם יפנה לבבך ולא תשמע ונידקת השתחווית לאלוהים אחרים ועבדתם.
העידותי בכם היום את השמיים ואת הארץ החיים והמוות נתתי לפניך הברכה והקללה ובחרת בחיים למען תהיה אתה וזרעך לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך לשמוע בקולו ולדבקבו כי הוא חייך ואורה ימיך לשבת על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לכם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natah betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
So much of today is about sacred ritual and rite. The aim of the priestly atonement ritual was to ensure the spiritual and physical well-being of the community. Through rites of sacrificial blood and the ritual of the scapegoat, the sanctuary was purified, effecting reconciliation. As foreign as that mindset is today, this day does tend to be one steeped in ritual. Our Torahs are dressed in white in the holy season. The day begins with the recitation of Kol Nidre, a prayer whose melody is so haunting that we continue to chant it despite its words being anathema to most of the way we act the rest of the year. Many today choose to wear all white. Some choose to wear no leather even on their shoes, or forego food and water. Even in the modern world, today is a day of sacred rite and ritual. Our Haftarah, which we are about to hear recited, is a call for us to embrace the deeper nature of the relationship between rite and change. Isaiah stresses the human-centered understanding of atonement, noting that rituals lack the ability to change reality, that there is no automatic atonement through ritual. Instead, for any ritual to be functional, it must connect us to our actions in the world. Isaiah's prophecy tells us the purpose of a fast is to remind us of those who truly go hungry. The point of a day of discomfort is to compel us to find those whose life offers no respite and make shelter for them. I would add, if we are to cry out about our fear, we must ask if we have offered comfort to all those whose lives are fearful. If we are to seek forgiveness, we must ask ourselves, have we forgiven? As we hear the words of Isaiah this morning, we are invited to meditate on the connection between our time in this sacred community today and our healing actions in the world tomorrow. May that connection be deepened and strengthened.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divrehem hanemarim bemet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
החזה יהיה צום אבחריכו יום ענות אדם נפשו חלחוף כגמון ראשו ושק ואפר יציע חלזה תקרא צום ויום רצון לאדוני. הלא זה צום אבחריכו פתח חרצובות רשע התר אגודות מותה ושלה רצוצים חפשים וחומותה תנתקו. הלא פרוס לרעב לחמך ועיניים מרודים תביא בית כי תראה ערום וכיסיתו ומבשרך לא תתעלם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום הכיפורים הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו למתילה ולסליחה וכפרה לכבוד ותפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מוחל
וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה, מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ביום הכיפורים.
The prophets invited us to constantly look forward towards a time, a world perfected. Geraldine has guided us through this uncertain time, working constantly to ensure our strong and stable future. It's an honor to learn from her today.
Shana Tova. It seems like such a long time ago when I spoke to you on the High Holidays about my spiritual journey, about philanthropy, and about our plans to reimagine our physical space. This year has been a dichotomy of two realities, pre-pandemic and everything that came after. It's hard to recall our pre-pandemic activities, so overshadowed are they by the events of February onward. Today I'm going to share my thoughts about our future, our reasoning, and the personal journey leading to my message for you for 5781, that of embracing hope. It began at the end of the winter. February and March found me and so many others sucked into the vortex of responding to a pandemic. Crisis management. How do we reduce risk? Is everyone okay? What do our members need right now? How can we help? What followed was a spring whirlwind of activity by dozens of volunteers and our dedicated and phenomenal professional team to create a virtual world for our community. What did we need to anchor us and comfort us in the twilight world we found ourselves in? Would our collective skill sets allow us to create and be creative? Our friend has described this summer as the summer of our discontent. We all miss people and our everyday activities, and now it's compounded by an underlying and chronic level of stress, anxiety, weariness, and yes, impatience. In many ways, the crisis has brought us closer. I've commiserated, sympathized, empathized, and shared, and that part's been wonderful. I talked more and in a more concentrated and focused way in the last 6 months than I have in the last 6 years. But if I hear the phrase and associated question, back to normal, one more time. And that's why these high holidays are so important. They don't simply remind us about what we have lost. The hugs, the New Year wishes, the updates about our families' lives. They are so much more. A promise and a demonstration of what's possible, the wonderful things that we can create despite our lack of physical contact. Rabbi Carrie, Cantor Beth, Bailey, Linda, and Michael, along with an IT task force led by congregant and your next president, Amy Travis, and her team of lay experts, weren't content with a pale reflection of high holidays past. Their aim was to distill down the essence of each component of our service and figure out how to present it in a new way. We've seen expanded prayer and study to prepare for the holidays and new ways of celebrating, such as a Rosh Hashanah Seder. A beloved choir and cantor, each member singing alone initially, but with the tech genius of Dan Ottenheimer and Don Abrams, recreated our choir music in a way that makes us feel warm and whole. We have our weekly poetry offering, whose members created prayers for Yom Kippur afternoon, and our Yisker book transformed with pictures of those whom we lost, but of course remain in our lives. We have our remarkable shofar blowers, Barry Starr and Joel Zimmerman, giving us our call to action in a way that keeps us safe. The list of inventive ways to celebrate and worship goes on and makes me so proud to be part of this community. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has said that Judaism is the voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. We see it often in the stories of Torah. despair over events beyond control, followed by hope and possibility. Whether it's Moses and the Israelites entering the sea and not knowing what will ensue, or the destruction of the temple and its rededication with oil for only one Hanukkah light, or the story of Noah, the building of his ark, and his hope for a new world. Torah is replete with stories of hope, as is the creation and history of Israel. But hope without action is merely magical thinking, and that is not who we are. At Shir Tikvah, we are doers. We see a challenge, we offer ideas, we debate, we preach, we listen, we contemplate, we strategize, and then we act. We know there are many roads to achieving our goals, and we also know that regardless of the path we choose, we all want to accomplish the goals of strengthening our community and our relationships as we continue to build our future. We hope for ease of access for everyone, and we work to achieve it by having multiple ways of participating in our services, providing one-on-one technology help, and knowing that Dan Lieber, our virtual mastermind, is committed to bringing everyone into our sacred space. We hope for social and racial justice, and we work to achieve it by listening, educating ourselves, joining with other temples and organizations, helping in small and larger ways, and never forgetting that the isms diminish us all, and our work on Tikkun Olam raise us all. The depth and the breadth of our work is truly awe-inspiring, from our families working in soup kitchens to helping children read, from defending LGBTQ rights and voting rights and those of immigrants, to the support for fighting climate change, and a long list of additional activities. The commitment to make this world better, even when we may not see the end point, fills us with pride. We hope to continue to reach and teach our children, and we work to achieve it by offering both education and social interactions, whole family involvement, as well as kids talking to each other, linking groups of children with our committees to help them understand what our community is about, and building one more layer of relationships. We hope to continue taking care of each other and not let anyone fall through the cracks, and we work to achieve it by creating an emergency fund, by Beth and Rabbi Carey connecting with community members in need, and with our caring committee and additional volunteers, maintaining a network of caring, with calls, emails, and of course lots of Zoom. We will not let our members slip away because they haven't yet found a new doorway into our midst, and have created a team of lay leaders to provide that entranceway. Both young families and empty nesters have unique needs. We see them, and we hear them. Our board members have reached out to groups of our members to listen and to inform, and to importantly create chavarot, communities that will form new relationships among us. We will tell each other our stories to deepen our current relationships and create new ones. We hope that our programming responds to our community's needs, and we work to achieve it by providing diverse programs to learn and socialize, establishing a data group to analyze program usage and collect data that will inform future programming. We hope that leaning on Jewish prayer and learning provides an anchor to our community's core values, and we work to achieve it by offering streamed Shabbat services for adults and for families, a weekly minyan that starts the week with calm and community, and by Torah study, both rabbi and lay-led. We hope to secure our values and our future, and we work to achieve it by having a dedicated development group plan this year's Chai campaign to provide abatement and steward our emergency fund and its use. We will create a legacy giving campaign and process to give all of us the opportunity to remember Shir Tikvah in our wills, so that we can pay it forward and leave a lasting legacy for our children, our friends, and our spiritual home. Our community has risen to the challenges of last year in ways that continually astound and delight me. I know it will continue. We are Shir Tikvah, a song of hope. Please join with me in embracing that hope in our singular, transcendent Shir Tikvah way. Wishing you a safe and healthy year filled with hope and community. Shana Tova.
We continue our words, our prayers of hope with Shema Kolenu on page 294. Hear our voice.
Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kaver v'rachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu, v'kaver v'rachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu. Shema kolenu, Shema kolenu, Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, Kadesh Amenu kekedem, Kadesh Amenu kekedem. Shema kolenu, Shema kolenu, Shema kolenu, Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu.
We continue on page 296. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong.
Yai dai 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 dai, ya da da dai dai dai, ya da da dai dai dai. Ashamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu, dibarnu dofi. Yai dai 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 dai, ya da da dai dai dai. Yadadadai, He'evinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker, Yadadadai, Yadadadai, Yadadadai. Yatsnura kizavnu latsnu maradnu niatsnu sararnu avinu pashanu sararnu Kishinu oref, yai dai 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 dai, ya da da dai dai dai, ya da da dai dai dai. Rashanu, shichatnu, tiavnu, tainu. Titanu, yai dai 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 dai, ya da da dai dai dai, ya da da dai dai dai.
We continue on page 300.
שחטאנו לפניך באונס וברצון, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים. The ways we have wronged you under duress and by choice, and harm we have caused in your world consciously and unconsciously. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בבלי דעת, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בריצת רגליים להרע. The ways we have wronged you through our thoughtlessness, and harm we have caused in your world through impulsive acts of malice. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחוזק יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בזלזול הורים ומורים. The ways we have wronged you by abusing our power, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בקשיות עורף. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through inflexibility and stubbornness. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בכחש ובכזב, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בקלות ראש. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world by making light of serious matters. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בשיח שפתותינו, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בצרות עין. The ways we have wronged you in our routine conversations, and harm we have caused in your world through envy. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחל לנו, כפר לנו. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחל לנו, סלח לנו מחל לנו, כפר לנו.
We continue on page 310.
כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו, אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו, אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו, אנו שונאך ואתה רואינו, אנו חרמך ואתה נוטרנו, אנו פעולתך ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו, אנו מאמירך ואתה מאמירנו, ידי ידי ידי
Page 313. Let us affirm the good we have done. Let us acknowledge our acts of healing and repair. For the good we have done by acting with self-restraint and self-control. For the good we have done through acts of generosity and compassion. For the good we have done by offering children our love and support. For the good we have done by honoring our parents with care and respect. For the good we have done through acts of friendship and hospitality. For the good we have done through acts of forgiveness and reconciliation. For the good we have done by keeping promises and honoring commitments.
For the good we have done through the work of our hands and by serving others. For the good we have done by caring for the earth and sustaining its creatures. For the good we have done by housing the homeless, feeding the hungry, and welcoming the stranger. For the good we have done by acting with integrity and honesty. For the good we have done through thoughtful and encouraging words. For the good we have done by caring for our health and that of our loved ones. For the good we have done by strengthening our Jewish community. And for the good we have done through acts of civic engagement and tikkun olam. All these have brought light and healing into the world. May these acts inspire us to renew our effort in the year to come.
This world will be built anew through the good we will do. Olam chesed yibaneh.
Olam chesed yibaneh. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. 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 I will build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. And you must build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. Then God will build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh. 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 Yadadai, yadadai,
May we hope. May we sing songs of hope as Temple Shir Tikvah, that the world will be built from love in this new year of 5781. Gamar Tov, May we be inscribed for goodness in the book of life. We will rejoin our community together for learning and conversation at 1 p.m. this afternoon.